Okay, I'm going to get started. My name is Jeff White. I will be your trainer for today. For those of you that were in our class yesterday, welcome back. Otherwise, I'll just introduce myself a little bit. I worked for FlexMLS for 5 years, where I was a trainer and a program manager for third-party integrations. I did a bunch of training here a couple years ago, and then last year I was an MLS director out in a board in Arizona. And I've now started my own business, so I'm traveling the country doing trainings. Now, normally this would be in front of a large group of you on site, but obviously with the current situation, we're going to be doing some online training. But if you have any questions, please type them in the chat panel down at the bottom of your screen. I have 2 computers going, and so I'm going to see if there's any questions periodically, and then I will answer them verbally on the class. So this class is going to be CMAs and advanced searching. So our first hour, we're going to go over the full CMA, the quick CMA, and the statistical CMA. And in the second hour, we will be doing advanced searching. So things like MLS searching, address, using the map shapes, nosy neighbor, things like that. So this class will be about 2 hours. We're going to do about 45 minutes, 50 minutes of instruction. I'll do a little bit of review, and then we will take a 10-minute break. Again, if you have any questions, just type them into the chat panel, and I will answer them when I get a chance. Okay, so CMAs. CMAs, this is one of the hardest things to do in the system, not necessarily because of how you do it in the system, but whether or not it's a good idea. What I mean by that is I'm going to walk you through how to do a CMA, and I purposely chose an easy example so you see how easy a CMA theoretically can be. Now, whether or not you should do that, that's up to you. What I mean by that is CMAs is one of those things that can get realtors into trouble because they price a house incorrectly. So you really should speak with an appraiser or speak with your broker on how they do things. I'm going to show you how it works in the system, but I'm not a realtor. I'm not an appraiser. So I'm going to show you what I've learned over the years on how to do a CMA. But again, I'm not a realtor or appraiser in this area. Things may be done differently. So when I do this CMA, I purposely keep it simple so you can see the steps that I go through. You can get an understanding, but the best way for you to understand how to do a CMA is do it yourself. So I'm going to do a full CMA twice. I'll go through the process. And if you do have questions during the time, please type them in. So to start a full CMA, usually what I do is I'll search for my comps first. What a lot of people will do is they type in CMA up in the quick launch bar, and they go here and they start from the beginning. I personally like to look at my comps first and then go into the CMA, so that is what we're going to do. Now, for the purposes of this example, I've chosen a property that, let's say we have a client, and our client purchased a house about 10 years ago. And they see the market has been really going up, and they're looking to say downsize, and they want to sell their property. So they've asked you, okay, I want to see what can we price this property for. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose comps around the area of that listing, and then be able to give our client a price summary. Okay. So the first thing I always do when I do a CMA is I see if the listing has ever been in the MLS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the address of my subject property. So 775 Hibiscus, and I see right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down that MLS number, 565306. I personally like to type in the address here, not the MLS number, because like if I knew there was an MLS number, one thing I do want to point out, because you have data shares with Daytona Beach and Northeast Florida, you have duplicate MLS numbers. So you may actually choose the wrong one. This is what I mean. I'm going to type in 565306. And what we see is 3 different listings: Port Orange, Jacksonville, and Satellite Beach. So these are going to be 3 different properties. Vicki, could you please, thank you, mute yourself? Yeah, if you want, check in to make sure throughout the class that you are muting yourself. Okay, so what I did though is I checked to see, is this property in the MLS? You can do CMAs if it hasn't been listed before, but I always check first, and it's ideal because it makes your job a little easier. So what I do is, okay, I found that the property is in the MLS. So I'm going to type that in again. We're going to do 775 Hibiscus. And I'm going to open this up in a new tab. And the reason I'm going to do this is I'm going to look at the detail report and decide, okay, what am I going to narrow my comps on? What am I going to choose? And so I'm going to look at this detail report and I'm going to look for certain things. The first thing I'm going to look for is, okay, how many bedrooms does it have? It has 3 bedrooms. So I'm going to write that down, 3 bed. And then I'm going to look down how many total baths does it have? It has 2. So when I search for my comps, I'm going to use 5 or 6 of these fields. Now, personal preference, again, I'm not a realtor or an appraiser, but I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to do, okay, 2 bath. And then I'm going to take a look and, okay, pool. I find that's really important. So they want to get another house that has a pool, or maybe you want to do comps, make sure, you know, you might know that in a certain area, houses with private pools versus houses that don't have pools might be $20,000, $30,000 difference. So pool, I'm going to write down yes. And then I'm going to take a look. Let's see. What else is important? Ooh, 2 cars. So parking allows 2 cars. So I'm going to write that down as well. Again, I'm trying to get my comps as close to my subject property, because when we're doing the CMA, we are going to do one adjustment on square footage, but adjustments is where you get in trouble. People do adjustments and then they'll have this vast range of prices, and that's you know, you can get in legal trouble for CMAs. So it says you want to be very, very careful. So I'm going to do parking, 2 parking spots. And what else? Okay, I'm going to look at square footage. Now, I see that the living square footage is 1781. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a range. I'm going to do 300 feet below and 300 feet above my subject property square footage. So because if I were to search on obviously just 1781, I would not find any comps. So I'm going to use that range for 1481 and 2081. So when I search for my comps, it'll look for properties within that square footage. And then I will do adjustment by the properties that have more square footage. When you adjust, you lower down their square footage to be the same as the subject property, so then it would lower the price. Whereas the houses that have less square footage, you adjust by bringing the square footage up to your subject property, so it raises the price. And we'll talk about that when we get into the adjustments. Yes, garage, 2-car garage. Thank you. And so, okay, a few other things I'm going to look for. Now, property status standard. I'm going to make sure I limit just to that, because if I'm looking in an area and there is a bunch of, you know, bank owned or, you know, short sales or something, those would be priced less than a standard sale, and that would lower my comps, or would lower my price that I'm going to price this house on. So I want to make sure that I'm just doing standard. And I think I'm pretty much happy with that. So the first thing that you can do is you need to choose the location. So my subject property is going to be in Satellite Beach. Now there's a couple different ways you can narrow things down. You could do area, and I could do area of 382 if I wanted to just do 382, or I could do city of Satellite Beach. There's also a subdivision condo. Now, Oak Alley by the Sea, that might end up being literally just 1 or 2 streets, so it's going to be very hard. In different locations, you have very specific phases, so where the houses are all the exact same, and so then you literally would just stick with that 1 or 2 phases. You know, we're working in Satellite Beach, a lot of these properties were built in the 1960s, the 70s, the 80s, so that's not going to work. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do a 1 mile radius around my MLS number. So what I mean by that is I'm going to do 1 mile from, and I'm going to plug in that MLS number. So it was 565306. So 1 mile from 565,306. And like I said in yesterday's class, whenever you do a radius search around a location, make sure you always check the map tab first. So I'm going to do my 1 mile, click on that. And once that loads, I'm going to switch to my map tab. And once I've switched to my map tab, I see, okay, that is a 1 mile radius around the subject property. Now, the first thing that I notice is it looks like it is including some waterfront properties. I don't want waterfront, so when I do my go to edit search and start to narrow down for my comps, I'm actually going to remove, say, waterfront is no. So that's something that didn't occur to me while I was looking at it, but now I see, okay, those houses are probably going to be, you know, more likely to be like condos and also higher priced. Okay, so let's go into our search parameters by clicking on edit search right here. And we are going to start to narrow down our search. Now, someone had asked earlier about looking at other MLSs. I will go over this again in the advanced class, but this MLS right here of Space Coast, if you were to click on Daytona or Northeast Florida, you would be able to search their boards. It's called a data share. For the MLS CMA thing, we're not going to do that, but I just want to point that out. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on the bold word status. And like I said yesterday, always pay close attention to your hover text because you may not realize there are some options. And when there's a drop down here, I'm going to hold down Control or Command if I have a Mac, and I'm going to select Active, Pending, Backups, Contingent, and Closed. And so I do that. That raises this up to 198 properties. That's fine because I have not done any bedrooms, bathrooms, or anything. But I do want to point out something. When I scroll down, you'll see where it says under contract date and sold date. These are the two off-market dates for things we have like the pending and we have closed for sold. I'm going to go back 3 months for this because the market is pretty hot right now. If the market wasn't so hot, a lot of times you would go back, say, 6 months. But these two black arrows, these are a toggle from an absolute date range to a relative date range. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this to 3 months back, and this one I'm going to switch to 3 months back. Yvonne's asking why you can't see the screen. Try to maximize your zoom. You're probably just minimized so you can't see it, but my screen is being shared right now. I'm watching it on my other computer. Okay, so we've done our dates. Again, I've chosen active, pending, backups, contingent, and closed. And let me walk around. This has an automatic light. It's frequently going to do that. Okay, so some people will tell you should always choose 3 active listings. You should choose 3 pending listings and 3 closed. It's personal preference. Again, I'm going to keep this as simple as possible. We'll probably end up having about 10 to 12 comps. But again, it comes down to personal preference. I'm showing you how to do it in this system. Once you get comfortable with the software, then you really should talk to an expert like your broker or an appraiser and say, okay, well, how do you do these things? Okay, so I'm going to keep going down. And you'll notice I'm going to skip price because when you're doing a CMA, you don't want to prejudice your results by doing an actual price. We are working on a CMA for a house that was purchased 10 years ago. And with how hot the market is, you know, it may even double in price. We'll find out once we're finished with the CMA, but this is going to show our clients that they're going to get a nice chunk of change for this property. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start filling things out. I'm going to put in bedrooms. And remember, our subject has 3, so I'm going to do 3 to 3. And then what I'm going to do is bass total. I'm going to do 2 to 2. And residential subtype, they should all be single family detached once I get rid of the waterfront ones, but just to be sure, I'll make sure that I've selected that one. Now, square footage living. Remember, we looked at our subject property, which I'm going to go back to right now, right up here. And when I go to the subject property, oh, looks like I got rid of it. I'll do this. Just pull it up real quickly. I want to make sure that I had that number right. So the living square footage was 1781. So I'm going to go 300 feet below and 300 feet above so I can find comps that are similar to it. So we're going to go to our square foot living, and I'm going to type in 1481, and we're going to do 2081. And so you notice our number is starting to get smaller and smaller. That is good. And then what I want to do is, now I noticed the waterfront properties have gone away because I chose the single family detached. I'm just going to change this waterfront to no just to be absolutely sure. We have 30. And we still have 30. But if I hadn't done that, single family detached, then it might still have that waterfront. Again, those are going to raise the price, and they're not going to be similar because we're looking at the single family house with 3 bedrooms in the wonderful location of Satellite Beach. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at property status right here. And I'm going to do property status just standard. Again, the reason we're doing this is because I noticed when I was prepping for this class, I saw a couple of like either short sales or bank owned. And just visually looking at them, I noticed they were like $40,000 to $50,000 less than the neighboring properties. So there could be any number of reasons for that. But you're trying to give your client an accurate number. You want to make sure that you price the house correctly. So, one, it goes within the days on market that is expected in that area, but they also get, a good amount of money back. So we're going to do standard, and let's see what happens. 30 drops down to 29. So it looks like there was just the one right now. And I'm not really going to bother with year built. I mean, you can, if you're working in an area that is a completely new subdivision, it makes a lot of sense. These houses in Satellite Beach are all built in the 1960s through the 80s. They have all had some renovations. But if you're working on this new subdivision phase and everything is just in the last, 5 years, and, you're trying to list a property that's 20 years old, there could be a very, very different price range, a very different quality in the construction of the new properties versus the old. So year built is sometimes that is when it would be very, very important. Okay, and we're going to do pool private. We're going to change this to yes because our subject property does have a pool. And you may know, so it's already dropped it down from 29 to 15. Half the properties don't have a pool. And if we were to go into the results, we may notice that there is quite a bit of difference in the prices with houses that have pools. Maybe it's $10,000 or more. Keep going down. And then total garage spaces. I'm going to do that one. And I'm going to change that one to 2 to 2. That brings us down to 13. So what have we just done? Well, the first thing we started with is we pulled up our subject property, which I'm going to go to right here, because we wanted to get information off the detail report that we're going to use to choose our comps. We want to get our comps as close as possible to our subject property so we feel more comfortable with the pricing analysis. The only difference that we're doing is obviously with square footage, 1781, we're not going to get the exact amount. So we're going 300 feet below and 300 feet above. And then we will be doing adjustments on that during the CMA. But what I now have is I have 13 results. So before I go into the CMA, I'm going to switch to the list tab so I can visually look at the properties and see if I can narrow this down a little bit more. Again, like I said before, some people say choose 3 actives, 3 pendings, 3 closed. You may not have that ability. There's only 1 active. So if I have about 10 to 12, I'm happy with that. You may want to narrow it down some more. What I would recommend is, you are the realtor. If you've been to any of these properties, you may know why they're, priced a certain way. I'm not going to know that. So I'm going to keep this as simple as possible. But what we will do right now is we're going to go to the list right here. And we're going to take a look at these properties, see, okay, are there any ones that we can eliminate? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to descend by price. because I see a lot of these are like 360, 380, and then I see two that are 459 and 440. So well, I see one that's 459. I'm like, well, maybe you were doing open houses or you were going on the tour and you were at this property and you know that that house has been completely renovated. Everything is absolutely new. It was basically, it's been HGTV'd. There's a reason that it's priced for almost $460,000. And this one that's 440, maybe you know that someone else in your office has that listing. That was their property. And you've also been there and know, okay, this one is just, got some crazy amenities. It's got a mini golf course in the back. It's got a jacuzzi. Like the reason it's priced that is for all those extra amenities, something that you're not necessarily going to search for when you're doing a CMA. So what I'm going to do, and now Rowan says you are comparing list price to back up to close price. Yes. So there's a couple things here. If you're in a hot market and your sold price to list price is very, very close, I feel pretty comfortable including those. This again comes down to you are the realtor or talk to your broker. Because I only have one active and I have a handful of closed, I may just want to do the closed. But if I know in this area that these ones that are contingent are getting 98% or 99% of the list price, I may feel comfortable including them. If I know, okay, well, there's a huge difference, you may want to not have those ones. So again, I'm going to show you how to use the software, but Rowena's question, whether or not that's a good idea, that comes down to your expertise. Because in some places where I teach, they're literally getting the listing price every single time because the market right now is so hot. How will you know that? Well, one thing you could do is if you were to go to the compare tab, you can get some basic stats, and I'm going to go to search statistics. And you have things like sold original list ratio. So if I were to do this, and I will do this later on with the comps. So right now we see, the median sold to list ratio is 100%. Like I feel comfortable with this. And we're going to search for closed listings in the last 3 months in Satellite Beach to get a sold price per square foot for the purposes of this CMA. But this is one thing you can look at. If you want to see the median, it's basically they're getting what they want. So this price is likely going to be what it's closed out at. Same as, like this price, because that number is so high. Okay, I'm going to switch back to our list. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the box to select 13, but I'm going to uncheck the ones I don't want. So I know that these two have just crazy upgrades and amenities that just doesn't have any relevancy to my subject property. I'm going to keep going through. Everything else looks good. And this 331, I'm like, well, that's really low. Well, maybe I happen to have been there, or maybe I know another realtor that's their property. And the reason it's 330 is because there is a very pungent smell of cats everywhere. And so the price had to be dropped because of the quality of the house, or maybe the person was a heavy smoker. So this is one good reason to do the tour of homes, go to a lot of open houses, because especially if you work certain areas, you get an idea of what things can be priced just by going to those properties. So when you're going to a CMA, you have an idea, okay, that's really low, or maybe you just happen to know on Rosada that seems like a really low price. So I'm going to uncheck this one, and this is now going to give me 10. And this is the number I was, looking for when I was going to do my CMAs, about 10 to 12. Again, personal preference. You may want to narrow this down and start unchecking some of these other listings if you feel they wouldn't be a good fit. Rowena's thing about the list price, backup and close price is a very, very valid example. But what I'm doing is I'm looking at the prices, the sold price to list price, and they are so close. If you're getting, a 90 to 92% of, sold price versus the list price, there you might want to be more careful, because we do have, 1, 2, 3, 4. We do have 4 closed and 1 active, so that would give me 5. So again, I'm not the expert. I can show you how to use the software, But once you get comfortable with the software, I would recommend doing a couple CMAs and then going to your broker and says, hey, how can I tweak this? How can I make this more accurate for my clients? I want to make sure I'm doing my CMAs correctly. Okay, so what have we done? Well, we looked at our subject property, then we chose our comps. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the CMA. And Barbara says, days on market for contingents is a good clue about list price to sold price. That is a good point. So if you were to see the days on market, is that on this? Okay, it's not here, but if I were to, I'm actually just gonna go into this view. And I'm gonna call this one my res view. And I'm gonna add cumulative days on market and days on market. And I could remove a bunch of fields. Normally, if I was to do a customizations class, I would cover this. But let's just create a view. And so we have a view. And so the days on market, like there's nothing here that jumps out. Like a lot of times when I do CMAs, I will check the days on market. And I might see something that's 200 or 300 days on market. These are all under 1 month. And if I were to, once I look at the actual CMA, I may notice that the average days on market is 25 or 30 for from being listed to sold. I'm comfortable with these numbers. Thank you for your input and the questions. Like I said, I'm not a realtor, so especially how things work in your market, I'm not going to know. So you're helping me, but also helping other realtors on the training. Okay, so we have 10 listings. I'm now going to go into my CMA. So I'm going to go up right here, click on CMA, and I'm not going to use all the results because there are 13 results right here. We're going to use the selected 10. We visually looked at our comps and decided, okay, which ones aren't we going to include? We purposely did include a couple that we knew had crazy upgrades and amenities, and also one that was the price was really low, and it was because the condition of the house. It was cats, lots of cats. I love cats, but for the purposes of selling, they can cause problems. So we're going to click on used selected. Now, before I go into the full CMA, I want to explain the full CMA versus the quick versus the statistical CMA. We're going to do all three, but just to explain the difference, a full CMA has a subject property. Again, the full CMA has a subject property. What I mean by that is that's what we're doing. Our client purchased this house about 10 years ago. They see where the market's going and they want to cash out so they can downgrade. Maybe the kids have left for college and they want to go into something smaller and they want to take advantage of a hot market. Whereas a quick CMA, you're just comparing listings against themselves. Again, you're comparing listings against themselves. So what I use a quick CMA for is, let's say I have a client that's in town and they're in town for the next 4 or 5 days and they just want to look at a bunch of properties. And that's what we're going to do. You can basically use a quick CMA kind of like a cover sheet and then put it on top of the individual listing reports, because once you've gone to 3, 4 properties, clients can't remember what has what. So that cover sheet with that basic information side by side is really helpful. And then finally, the statistical CMA, that is basically number crunching. So what we're going to do with the statistical CMA is we're going to see a breakdown of the areas that are hot. Where have the sales been actually happening? But you could also see a breakdown, okay, this is what 2 bedrooms go for on average. This is what 3 bedrooms go for on average, that kind of thing. So we're going to focus on our full CMA. And I want to make sure, so I'm happy with that square foot living because that's what we were using, what we're going to make our adjustments on, but you do have other options. And I'm going to click on next step. Okay, so to do a CMA in FlexMLS, you basically just go from tab to tab. And I'm going to put in, okay, so this is going to be for Luke Skywalker. And I'm going to use my generic card. And it asked me for some comments. So here is your CMA for your house on 775 Hibiscus. Obviously, you can put in more information. I'm just going to keep this very basic, so keep the class moving along. And then I'm going to click on Next Step. So it's going to bring us to our Subject tab. Now, there's two things I want you to really pay close attention to. One is we're going to auto-populate fields assuming our subject property has an MLS number. We know it does because we found it right here, 565306. The other thing we're going to focus on this subject tab is this template. Now, there's a great template here that's already provided, and if I click down here, yours, if you've never done this, says known custom fields. So I'm going to show you how to create your own template. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on Auto Populate Fields from Existing Listing. So I click on that button and it gives me a pop-up, and it does show me the different options for the MLSs. So I'm just going to keep it on Space Coast, and I'm going to put in that number 565306. This is my subject property MLS number. And I'm going to click on Submit. Now, when I click on Submit, I check to see, okay, a lot of this information is filled out. Now, you may notice a lot of this stuff might be missing. The reason being is this MLS has been around for a long time. This property is about 10 years old. So since that time, you may have had fields added during the input process that did not exist 10 years ago. So you may not have that information, but it looks like just about everything is there. So to sum up, what did we just do with the subject screen? Well, we are focusing on this button right here, Auto Populate Fields from Existing Listing. We are hoping that if we click on this button, we have an MLS number we can work from. And remember, I got that MLS number by typing in the address to see, okay, hey, has this ever been listed? It has been listed. I see it right here, and I write down that number. So I want to click on this button to pop in that number, because otherwise I would have to manually fill out all this information. Now, the second part, what we're going to do is we're going to create our own template. One is provided there. Now, this, I don't know if this was inherited or if someone made this on this account, because this is a training account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this field. And I'm actually happy with all those. So I'm going to see, can I add a few more things? I'm going to click on New Item. And let's see, what else do I want to add? I'm going to add, let's do, okay, I don't see a days on market field there, so we're going to add that. And then I'm going to add, let's see, what else can we add? I'm going to add subdivision condo name. So you can add whatever you want, anything that makes sense to add for you, because what this is going to happen when you're in the CMAs, you're going to have your subject property, it's going to have all this information, and then next there's going to be 3 different comps, and it's going to have all that information as well, so you can compare it side by side. Type of construction was one. I do see construction right here that says concrete block. I got to turn on the okay, at least I'll get my exercise every 20 minutes or so. Okay, so Regina asked, can you show how to add those again? Yeah, real quickly. When you're looking at the list while you're on the subject screen, you just go down to New Item. Click on Select, and then you just find the ones that you want, and you can just add it over. So whatever you want, click on it, and you can add it over. Chair asked, utility city water, that is already there right here, utility city water. And Marcia asked, how about any upgrades the owner made to the subject property? That is something that you would do in manual adjustments when we get to the adjustments screen. Okay, and Regina says, will this save for all future CMAs? So that for your next CMA, yes, because what we're going to do is we're going to click on Save, Replace Template. I'm not going to save over the CMA one that was already there. So what I'm doing is click on Save, Replace Template. I'm going to click on new, and I'm just going to call this one Chewy's Res Template, or my residential template, whatever it is. And I'm actually going to make this my default one right here. So the next time, I'm going to go through the CMA twice. The next time I come through, you'll notice that these two new fields have been added. And actually, I'll just save that one more time to get rid of that extra line that I didn't do anything with. Okay. Now you'll notice, okay, so Regina, so by adding those items here, we can use those categories to make adjustments on, yes. You could make manual adjustments on any field that is there, but I don't even do manual adjustments because that's the kind of thing that really gets you in trouble, is you're raising the price or lowering the price. That's something like, for legal reasons, I don't touch. I talk to your broker, see how they do that, because I'm going to show you how to do the software. But a lot of people, you know, when I was MLS director last year, I heard of a couple lawsuits of people doing very, very poor CMAs. And then their clients were very upset. Now you'll notice that these two don't have any information. That's because I added these two fields before I auto-populated. So I'm just going to do the auto-populate again, but the next time I go through, they will already be there. So I don't have to do this twice. So I see the days on market in O'Galley by the sea. Okay, so I've done my subject property, and I'm going to go to my next step by clicking on comps, or I can go to next step. So I already searched for my comps, and I, visually looked at them and removed those three. Now I may notice, oh, okay, I didn't notice this during the process. I have one here for Indian Harbor Beach. I want to make sure that I am just in Satellite Beach, because maybe Indian Harbor, there could be different tax implications. There could be different reasons you would not want to include that. Now, it was in the same 1 mile radius, but this is my second chance to kind of visually look at them and say, oh, okay, I'm going to remove this one, this comparable, because I don't want this in my CMA. So I'm going to click on the X, remove that. So I'm now down to 9 comparables. I'm happy with them. One thing I do want to point out is if you click on Add Comparable, you do have an option to do non-MLS comparables. If you want to manually add a comparable, this would be more like if you're in, say, very rural areas, there's just no good comps, and there's been things that have been sold like for sale by owner, and you want to manually add them. But I know a lot of appraisers, they won't do the for sale by owner because the property has not been exposed to the normal market, so the price would be skewed. The price could either be lower or higher. So this is personal preference. This is the kind of thing, again, talk to your broker. How do they do that? How do they want you to do CMAs when it comes to non-MLS comparables? I'm just showing you how the software handles these things. Ruin asks, please remind me what button you push to go through searching for comps to the CMA program. We just clicked the CMA button. I'll just point that out. We search for comps, and there is a CMA button in the upper right corner. But don't worry, I'm going to go through this process twice. Barbara, could you please mute yourself? Okay, so I'm going to click on Next Step. Now this is where our adjustment screen is, and this is the part that I was this is where you get into trouble, is people start making these crazy adjustments and they have no idea what things are worth. I'm going to do an auto adjust for square footage, but someone was asking about adjustments for the subject property. If you go to these individual comparables, you can add a new adjustment and put in a description like solar panels and change the value higher or lower. Again, I personally don't touch that stuff because I don't know what those things are worth. And I would really talk to a broker or an appraiser on this. The one adjustment I feel comfortable teaching you and explaining to you, because it makes a lot of sense, comes down to the square footage. And so what I mean by that is when we click on square footage living, we see that our subject property has 1,781 square feet living. And so this one has more. So when we do adjustments, we're going to choose a value for the square footage, and we're going to assume that 324 Trinidad has the same amount of square footage as the subject property. So it will lower the price. And then this one on, say, Virginia, that has 1630, this is less. So we're going to assume that Virginia goes from 1630 to 1781. It has the same amount of square footage, so it raises the price. So the key thing here now is, how do we find what value we should adjust these prices on? And this is arbitrary. What people decide to do with the value, that is up to you. I taught a group of appraisers. There's about 50 of them when I was in Michigan a few years back. And one thing that they could kind of agree on, you put, 4 appraisers in a room, you have 5 different opinions. They're very smart. They're very good at what they do. And a lot of them like to take 1/3 the value of the sold price per square foot. And I'll show you what I mean. Is we're going to do close within last 3 months, area of 385. So I'm going to pull this up into a new tab so I don't lose the work I'm doing. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for a value that I can plug in for the square footage so we can adjust. Give this a second to load. And I'm going to make sure that I purposely do waterfront no, because again, those waterfront properties may skew the value. And then if I go to the compare tab, and we did this not too long ago, there is search statistics. And so what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the value right here that says 225. And let me actually verify that these are, okay, so we got some condos mobile, so I'm going to narrow it down even more. I'm going to do, where is my single family detached? So what I want to do is I want to get a square footage value. Okay, so we want single family properties that are not waterfront. And so what I see is so the sold price per square foot is $225. And let me just look at the list screen, see if anything jumps out that I would want to remove. Oh, we're choosing Melbourne. I didn't want to do 385. I apologize. I wanted to do, that's why I was getting confused. I want to do 382. Now we're going to switch to the compare tab, because you'll notice that it was 225 in Melbourne Beach, and then now when we do Satellite Beach, we're down to 198. So that makes more sense to me. Okay. Okay, I'm looking at a question for Megan. You can do that ahead when you, yeah, you could do this beforehand if you'd like, definitely. So I just felt like I'm doing it now for in the context of why you would do this. So, okay, I have a value of $198. And what I'm going to do is, hold on, I'm going to see if I can new tab the right. I'm just going to type in 198 divided by 3. That gives me 66. So I'm taking 1/3 the value of this. So Gail asks, are you suggesting that we always use the median amount? Again, I'm not the expert. That's personally what I do. The reason I like to do medians and not averages is because when you're doing averages, especially when it comes to real estate, you have those, all those properties, the median days on market are about 30. And then you have those 2 or 3 properties that are 200, 300 because you have a client refusing to drop the price. Or you have some, all these houses that are in a certain area, all relatively priced the same, and then you have a couple of matchings that just don't fit everything else, and they're priced $200,000, $300,000 more. So do you want to use the average or the median? I feel comfortable using the median. Megan, I guess I'm not sure what your question is. I would not use it. Again, we're really drilling down to the expertise of the area. So whether or not you should do every single family house versus using the median square price, talk to your broker or talk to an appraiser. I legally can't tell you how to do a CMA. I can show you how the software works so you understand what you would plug in or where you would plug it in. But the idea of like what is the best way to do something, talk to someone who actually does real estate in this area. So, but I'm going to take that 1/3 that number 198 and I'm going to take the value of 66. Now, people will ask, why don't you just use the entire value of 198? And my argument would be, and this is what I was heard from a lot of appraisers, is okay, we're using a range of 300 feet below and we're using a range of 300 feet above our subject property. So there's a huge difference. So if we use the entire value of 198, basically $200, and you're talking about 300 square feet above possibly, you could be changing the price of the comp $60,000. Now, our subject and comps have the exact same bedrooms, the exact same bathrooms, has a pool, has the same number of garages, has a bunch of same things. We've made our comps as close as possible to our subject property. So appraisers would tell me, if everything is basically the exact same, but every room is just slightly larger, and so that shows the discrepancy in the square footage, is that really worth a swing of $50,000 or $60,000? They would say no. So we're doing the 1/3 the value because it's kind of like a law of diminishing returns. If you have everything else the exact same, but every room is, slightly larger, and which makes the house slightly larger, is it worth that kind of change? So how we're going to adjust is we're going to click on Edit Adjustment List. And I don't see anything there, so I'm going to click on Add New. And I'm going to do residential. And we'll do the square foot living. And I'm going to type in that value of 66. Remember, the value we found was 198. But I don't want that. I don't want the full value because, again, that's going to really skew the prices. So I'm going to do 66, 1/3 the value. And I'm going to click on Save. So once you've entered that information, I'm going to return to the CMA. And I'm going to now adjust it because we're sitting on the square foot living. When I click on Adjust, Auto Adjust Comparables, and click on OK, 9 adjustments were made, and if I click away from it and click back, now I see these are the values. So like, for example, this one on Lynn Avenue, if we did the full value, that's almost $60,000 difference. Is it really that much of a change when everything else is basically the exact same? Because we spend a good amount of time searching for comps. Now, talk to your broker. They may feel things are differently, but I teach all across the country. I don't know what things are going to be in a specific area, so talk to an expert about this. My job is to show you, hey, this is how you can do a CMA in FlexMLS. These are what the individual things, whether or not it's a good idea or what you plug into those fields, that is up to you and your broker. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to click on Next Step. And when I click on Next Step, I see the price analysis. So closed, pending backups, contingent listings, active listings. I see the comparisons. So our median is basically 392. And then we see a breakdown of the overall market analysis. And what's really interesting about this is, you see sold price per square foot, which is, we say like 225, which is basically the exact same. We're seeing days on market for, basically 9. We have a couple that are 2. So these pending immediately went on market. Maybe it just slightly got hotter in the last month or so. So if you go into the individual listings, you could see that. But yeah, this is good news. So basically what's happening is 0.99. You can tell your client there's a good chance you're going to get very, very close to, Rowan at 190, yes. So these specific houses were slightly different, but if we're taking 1/3 of the value, it's not going to be that much of a difference. But one thing we notice is 0.99. That is very, very close. So the price to the list price. So your client's probably going to get very close to what they're asking, and the house is not going to be on the market for that long. You're confused. I'm going to go through the process one more time, but for the best way to understand a CMA is to do it a couple of times and then, run the results by your broker and say, hey, am I doing this correctly? This is one of the hardest things to teach in FlexMLS or in just real estate in general. I'm going to click on next step. And so it gives me a low, a high, and a recommended price. Now, this is calculated from the low and highs from the actual comps. If you wanted to do like a percentage, like 2.5, I click on recalculate. And now we have 374, 394, and the recommended price is 384. Regina is asking to clarify, I'm taking 1/3 of the value of the median sold price per square foot of the comparable properties. Yes, not the comps that I'm using. I'm just looking at what's closed in the last 3 months in that area. I mean, if you want to do it from those, if you feel more comfortable by switching to your summary first. The 2.5, that's just a arbitrary number. They allow you to calculate if you want your price band to be closer or farther away. I'm going to go through the CMA one more time. So we're going to click on next step. And this basically brings us on our finished screen. So you would just take a look, decide what you want, what you don't want. Maybe you want to change the color. And you can view it or download it. And there is going to be your CMA. And so what I recommend doing is after you've done the CMA, I would always save it just so you don't lose it. And we're going to just call this Luke Skywalker. And I'm going to give this a date of 6/16/2020. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our search results. So what we did is originally we looked at our subject property. We decided what fields were important to us: bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, that kind of thing. You may drill down even more to do other things. Again, I can't tell you what to do how to do your CMA. I can just show you the software, what the software allows you to do. And then so we search for all our comps by filling out these fields. And this got us down to 13 results. So then what I did is I switched to the list tab and I visually looked at these properties to say, okay, which ones do I not want to include? So I'm going to check the box so all of them are going to selected, and I'm going to decide, okay, which ones I don't want. So I'm going to sort the price because it's easier for me to look at them. And I realize, okay, these two I don't want because they're priced much higher. And the reason I know they're priced higher is because they've had some major upgrades with a lot of amenities that are not comparable to my subject property. And this time I actually noticed that this one's in Indian Harbor Beach, so I'm going to remove it this time. And then we removed the one that had the lowest price because we know that 330, the reason it's priced so low is because of the condition of the house, the cat urine smell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to CMA. This is how we go into our CMA after we've done our comps. I'm going to use my selected results. Let me walk around and get the light going again. And I see the full CMA, the quick, and the statistical. We're doing the full CMA because we have actual subject property. The purpose of this demonstration is that our client purchased a property about 10 years ago. They want us to list it, and so they want to see what they can price it for. I'm going to click on next step. And I'm going to put in Luke's information. In the search, you search closed in the last 3 months. Don't you have to put in the property address? If I were to do, like, say 1 mile from in the property address, I could do a radius around that. I just chose the area of 385. You know, it's personal preference. I mean, this, we could do 1 mile from 775 Hibiscus Drive, and I'll open this up in a new tab and we'll come back to this later. So we did the cover page. The area numbers are whenever you're looking into on your search, there's an area right, hold on, let me pull that up. There's an area option right here. These are where your area numbers are. So it breaks down where everything is. So they're an arbitrary thing that someone at the board had come together to combine things, make it easier for searching. Okay, so go back to our CMA. We're gonna go to the subject tab. Now the two things that we talked about that were important is if we have an MLS number that's ever been in the system, you wanna auto-populate because it's gonna save you some time. Click on auto-populate, put in that number, 565306. That fills out that information. Now you notice we see Chewy's res template. I had saved that template before, so it has those extra fields. And what's great thing about if you have an MLS number, even if something's incorrect, like you know that there's been changed, you could just manually change it. Like, because it fills out everything, just tweak the one or two things if there had been some additions or something to the property. I'm gonna click on next step. Now we're on the comps tab. Normally when I'm on the comps tab, I'm just visually looking at it again. Okay, do any of these seem out of place? I'm happy with what is here. I'm gonna click on next step. On our adjustment screen, I tell you, I would just completely avoid this unless you know what you're doing. If you're doing manual adjustments down here, that's where you get yourself into trouble. The one thing we did do is we're doing adjustments on square footage. So we'll do the edit adjustment list. And I added the one that was 66, but how did we get that number? Well, you can search for closed listings in a certain area in the last 3 months to get an idea of what is the price per square footage. I'm gonna make sure that I have no waterfront. And if I go to the compare tab, and go to my search statistics. So this time I see 187. So before I had 198, I'm searching for things that are a 1 mile radius versus before I did everything in Satellite Beach and Indian Harbor. So how you're choosing this is not a science. This is more of an art. I will show the auto adjust in just a second. So this time, 189 or 187 versus 198, it's going to end up being very, very close anyway. So if I do 187 divided by 3, that's going to be 60, we'll just say 63. So how you choose these numbers, it's going to be up to you. So I'm going to remove this one. And so to do the auto adjust, we have to plug in a number. I'm taking 1/3 the value. So I'm going to click on auto adjust list. I'm going to click on add new. We'll do residential. And don't worry, this is being recorded, so you can watch it hopefully tomorrow. Do square foot living. And I'm going to plug in the number 63 this time because I chose to do a mile radius around it versus the entire area. I may find, well, that entire area probably isn't accurate. So this is where your expertise as a realtor or speaking to your broker is important because, again, I'm not a realtor here. I don't necessarily know these things. I can just show you how the software allows you to do it. So we're going to click on save. And then we are going to auto adjust comparables right here. And if we go to our square foot living, we see all the different values. And the difference between the 63 and the 66, it literally is going to be a handful of dollars. So it's not that much different. We click on next step. And now we're basically done with our CMA. So we're looking at the summary. Where do you find the recordings? I assume it's going to be sent out somewhere with the board. I did upload or did provide the link for the class yesterday, but some with the board should provide that. What if you have new homes in this? That's something you're going to want to talk to your broker, is because right now I'm dealing with Satellite Beach, and I know all those homes are between the 1960s and the 1980s. When it comes to new homes, you're probably going to do a year built range within maybe 5 or 10 years. If like there's some subdivision in Melbourne that's just new stuff, but run that by your broker or an appraiser. Say how do you do these things? Because if it's just like one phase or a certain subdivision where everything's the exact same, they're cookie cutter homes, it's a lot easier to do it with year built 2010 to 2015, and you do it that way. The reasoning behind the 1/3 the value method is basically it's a law of diminishing returns. If you have this range of square footage, and in some places like here where the price per square foot is pretty high at like $200, if you're adjusting the full value, you're going to see a range. Your comps, and when adjust, are going to adjust $50,000 to $60,000, and your houses are basically the exact same, but you just have one house that's larger. And so if every room, it's 3 bedrooms, it's 2 baths, it has the same number of garages, every room is just slightly larger, is that worth $50,000 or $60,000 difference? I've been told that's not, but that's in a different area. You may have a broker that says, no, actually, this is how we do it. So again, do the CMA a couple times, get comfortable with it, and then run your results by the broker, because I can't tell you how to do a CMA. I can just show you how the software works. Okay, and click on next step. You'll ask how important it is to use active listings. That's something you talk to your broker. We know that in this area that 99% the sold price versus list price is what we're getting. But if you have something where it's 90, 92%, you may not want to include actives. We only have one active listing in this CMA, so it's not going to change it that much. But talk to your broker, decide how they do it. So we have our price values. I'm going to click on next step, and then this will bring us to our finished tab. So that is basically, okay, so Megan says the recordings will be on the YouTube page. So that is basically how you do a full CMA. Normally when I would teach this class, in person, it would be a 2-hour CMA, and I would have everyone create one for themselves, and we walk around and talk about it. This is a lot harder because we're doing this online, but what you're going to need to do is try it out a couple times and then run it by your broker. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to cover advanced searching at 1:44. I'm going to mute myself and then stop sharing my screen. Okay, we're going to start up in about 1 minute. Okay, so we did the full CMA. Now we're going to do the quick CMA and the stats CMA very quickly because we had a lot of questions on the full CMA. I know they're hard and I know they can be frustrating, but from like I said before, I'm not a broker, I'm not a realtor, I'm not an appraiser. I can't legally tell you how to do these things because it opens people up to lawsuits. We had lawsuits when at my previous board, and so talk to your broker, talk to an appraiser, understand how the software works, and but how you should do things in the software, that's what I'm here to teach you. But whether or not it's a good idea, that's why you talk to your broker. Okay, so we're going to do a quick CMA, and the purpose of a quick CMA is I use it for a cover sheet for things like open houses. So what do we do? So we have a client that's coming into town, and let's say they're looking to retire here. They have no idea what they want, but they know they can search between 300 to 350,000. So let's go down to the bottom, scroll down to the left side, and we see that there is an open house date. And so they're going to be here for the next 4 days. So I'm going to type in the next 4 days, and we're going to put in their price range. So we are going to do 300 to 350,000. So there's 5 results. So they want to say, okay, let's look at all 5 of these properties while we're here. Again, we have no idea what we want. We just know we want to live down in Space Coast. We really enjoy our vacations down here. So you have 5 results. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to CMA, and we'll use all the results. And this time we're not doing the full CMA because we don't have a subject property. The quick CMA is just comparing listings against themselves. We're using this like a cover sheet. So I'm going to go to the quick CMA, click on next step, and I'm just going to uncheck some things and add. So I want a cover page that has my information. I don't need 2 side-by-side comparisons, so I'm going to uncheck that. I'm going to check the statistical summary. And I do want to include the full report because there might only be like 3, 4, or 5 of these. So this is literally all I have. I have a cover page checked. I have side-by-side comparison, and I'm going to do the full report. Or you may want to choose something else that has less information depending on how you want to do it. But I do like your full report, so we'll stick with that. And then if I click on view, this is what I see. So they see my information, and this is what I mean by cover sheet. This will literally be, okay, the properties side by side. There's no subject tab, and then they have the actual breakdown for each individual listing. So what's good is if you look at all 5 of these listings in one day, by the time you're on the 3rd or 4th one, they may have completely forgotten what the first one has. So when they're side by side, it has a lot of that basic stuff. Remember, we saved our Chewy's res template was the default. So for something like this quick CMA, the default shows up. So this has a lot of great information as a cover sheet. So you provide them to them. So they like, oh yeah, this one had that, or something jumps out. Well, this one's been on the market for 117 days. That's really high in this market. That jumps out right away. So, you figure out why has it been on the market so long. So that is the quick CMA. Again, I just use it for the example. You have clients in town. You're going to do some open houses. How do you have a cover sheet when you're, instead of just printing off those 4, 5, 6 listing reports, putting this in front on top of those other listing reports is just cool because you really get to see, compare things instead of having to constantly flip through. Okay. And we just close a couple tabs. Okay, so the next one is the stat CMA, and this is basically for if we're just running stats. What I mean by that is you want to see what's going on in certain areas or subdivisions. Now, the example I use here is when I was teaching at the board in Arizona last year, I had a guy that came in, to every single one of my classes. And, he was personable. He was retired from his other profession. He was getting into real estate, and he wanted to get comfortable with the system. And so he would show up to all my classes, and he says, well, one thing that I like to do is, as a newer realtor, a lot of times you have the option to work open houses of more experienced realtors. And he's like, I look at that as an opportunity to get potential clients of my own. People will come in, they'll look at that property. They may not be interested, but they look at you as a realtor, as the expert. They want, you to help them out. So he's like, well, how do I spend my time working open houses in the areas that are actually hot? And so what I did is I showed him the stats CMA. So what we're going to do is we're going to do status of closed. And we'll go close within the last 3 months. And let's see, we'll do subtype, we'll do just single family detached. Okay, so he likes working the houses, not like the condos or whatever. So we want to see a breakdown of everything that's been sold in the last, actually maybe we'll even go back just like say last 2 months, because this is such a large geographic area. We'll go back 2 months. So he's like, well, how do I find out where those properties are being sold? So we have some results. This is the stats CMA. We're going to go up to CMA right here. We'll use all our results. And you'll notice if there's more than 150, you automatically go to the stats CMA. So I'm going to click on next step. And for those of you curious how appraisers do the 1004 MC, it is over here by checking that box. But otherwise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to this group, the statistical CMA by. Now, some people will choose bedrooms or bathrooms or something if they want to see, okay, well, what does 2 beds go for, or 3 beds or 4 beds? But what I'm interested in is area. So the realtor I was working with, he's like, well, I don't want to waste my time working open houses or offering to work open houses for the experienced realtors in these areas where nothing's selling. So what he would do is he would run this report, and he would use subdivision, because in Arizona, subdivisions work a little bit differently. They were much more orderly. There were like phases and units. And so you had a lot of the cookie cutter houses where like a certain location, everything was basically the exact same. So the CMAs you would do differently. And so we click on view. What this is going to do is going to generate a report and show, okay, and you could do this by subdivision if you'd like. Obviously it'd be much, much longer because there's so many subdivisions here. But we see, okay, Vieira West of 95, that has been a lot of sales in the last couple months. Vieira itself, just both in Vieira, Rockledge has got a lot. O'Galley, West Melbourne has got a lot. Southeast Palm Bay, 132. So Southeast Palm Bay might actually have the most going on right now. So Southeast Palm Bay. So maybe you decide as a new realtor, okay, well, my office has got a bunch of properties down there. Every time there's something there, I'm going to volunteer and say, hey, let me work that open house. And why do you work that open house? Well, in the afternoon, I'm going to talk about subscriptions and portals at 3 o'clock, 3 to 5. And so what's going to be, what's great about that is I'm going to show you how to use the portal. So you meet a potential client at an open house, how you can get them into your portal to automatically have them start searching with information that is branded to you. So then you can go from there. Someone asked, let me, 1 second, let me pull up the chat. Can you narrow it to one subdivision? Yeah, so if we did, instead of area, we did subdivision right here, and I'll run it, but it's just, there's so many subdivisions. This is gonna take a while to load. Like you notice all these are just the A's. Yes, you can choose subdivision instead of area. So if you wanted to go through and see maybe something has 10 or 15 of these, you might wanna focus on that one. But this also would just give a nice breakdown in the last month, 2 months, 3 months, and you can do other search parameters if you'd like. But I just like showing the stats CMA because I think it's a really cool thing. Vicky asks, where do we find YouTube on Flex? Megan, a couple messages up, showed the playlist that will be there, and the class from 3 to 5 will be taped. All my classes will be taped. Okay, so that's basically what we have for CMAs, the quick and the CMA. And like I just said, this is being recorded so you can watch it at your own pace. I know how difficult the full CMA is. I've taught the class many times. So my recommendation is just do it a few times with your own listings or with the office members' listings. And then once you've done it, talk to your broker, talk to an appraiser and say, hey, what makes sense in this area? What works, what doesn't? And then you'll get much more comfortable with it. Because again, I work the entire US and Mexico for training. I can't tell you how it's gonna work in a certain area. Things can be vastly different. Okay, so what we're gonna focus now is we're gonna focus on advanced searching. Now, a lot of times in advanced searching, I would cover all the things that you can do in the quick launch bar, but we spent about 45 minutes on that yesterday and we have a lot of repeat people. So I'm just gonna tell you, if you go to that link for the YouTube that Megan uploaded like 3 chat messages ago, and you look for my boot camp class, at 1 hour and 16 minutes, that is when the quick launch, so it's called FlexMLS trainings. If you go to that page, 1 hour and 16 minutes, and that is where I start my quick launch, and it goes about 45 minutes. The things like MLS number, address, radius, searching. I'm not going to cover that because we already did that. So what we are going to do is focus on some other things for advanced searching. Okay, so what is important with advanced searching? Well, I did do the MLS number search very, very briefly, but I didn't include everything, so I want to do that one more time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in an MLS number. Hold on, let me just. And let me plug in an MLS number. So I'm going to put in 839981. Now, I told you yesterday you can't type more than one MLS number in here. So if you have a list of MLS numbers, what you do is you type in the word MLS, and we go to the MLS number search. Now, yesterday I just plugged in a couple of numbers and went to the MLS number search right here. So I'm going to type in that number again, 839981. Let's imagine that your clients found some properties on another site like Zillow, and they want you to pull them up because they want to take a look at them, or they want to go, show the properties. So 839983. Well, one really cool thing you can do is when you do a search, let's imagine that all of these were active now. But what you can do is, let's say you have a list of 3 or 4 or 5. You can actually get driving directions from FlexMLS that get sent to Google. So watch what I mean. This is the key thing. You have to check the box so they're selected. You need to have selected listings. Otherwise, this will not work. If you select some listings, then you go to the map tab. This is a good example. We have one in Merritt Island, one in Cocoa, and one in Rockledge. So it may not, you may not know exactly where all of these are located. But if you've selected some listings and you come to the map tab, if you go to driving directions right here, and you see the selected listings, 3, 4, 5, that kind of thing, and you go to view in Google Maps, these 3 properties are going to get sent to Google Maps. And so that we see it right here. They get sent to Google Maps, these 3, and you'll have an option to send the directions to your phone. So if you're logged into your Google account, I click on this. Here's my MLS, there's my email address, so I could send it there. Here's my cell number. So you could send it to yourself, and we have these 3 properties, but I want to add another destination, meaning I want to start from, you say, my home or my office. I'll do 55C Park. I used to live there about 4 years ago. And I want this to be my starting location. So there you go. So there's my starting location. And then you can change these around if you want a different driving order, but this makes sense. It goes to Merritt Island first, then it takes a little detour to Rockledge, and then it goes to Cocoa. So again, you send the directions to your phone by text or by email. It'll, you click on that link or tap on that link, it'll pull it right up. And then you can even like send that to your client because they want to follow along in their own car or something. So let's just sum that up again, what we did. Now, this doesn't have to be just an MLS number search. This could be an address search or any other type of search. What you need to do though is once you've done your search, whatever it is, you go to say the list tab, you need to select the listings. You need to select the listings. So check the box, make sure some are selected. Courtney and Chrissy says, they wish they knew about this. That's why I'm teaching it. It's advanced searching, but I feel it's just so helpful. A lot of people don't realize that. So we're gonna select some listings, 3, 4, 5. You can get this from an MLS number search. You could get this from a regular search, 3 beds, 2 baths, and then see what open houses are going on. Then we go to the map tab. We look for the driving directions right here. And we make sure we do the selected listings, because if you don't select anything, it's just going to give you current listing, meaning the one listing. You obviously want multiple. So you click on View in Google Maps. It has the 3 here. You can always change the order around if it makes sense. Do it like this or whatever you want to do. But what I always do is I add a destination, but really for the purposes of it's a start point. I'm going to put in the condo complex I lived in for a couple of years. When I left, I moved from Fargo to Florida, and I didn't care where I lived as long as it wasn't Fargo. That's where FlexMLS is based. And then so there's my start. It has all these things. I send the directions to your phone, and either text it or send it by email, and then you'll have access to that. So okay, so that was the MLS number search going to driving directions. And purpose of the MLS number search is a lot of times your clients are doing searching in other sites, and then they'll provide you some MLS numbers or some addresses. The 3 o'clock class, portals and subscriptions, I'm going to show you the different ways you can use FlexMLS to hopefully get your clients off those other sites, and I'll explain why that's important. Okay, so another thing you can do is an address search. Now yesterday we typed in an address like 205 Hacienda Drive. And that's great and wonderful if you have an actual address. But what if your client calls you up and says, hey, I'm interested in that blue house in Melbourne? And I know you get calls like that. Let me turn on the light. And so if you don't have an actual address, you can do some detective work. Now, one question, Vic says, how do you add your phone number and select to get directions sent to your phone? You have to be signed into your Google account, and then there should be an option in your settings to add your phone number. So you can just Google that, like, how do I add my phone number to Google account? And it should give you the directions for that. So back to our example. Your client's looking for that blue house in Melbourne. Well, you can't type in blue house for Melbourne, but what you can do is you can type in the word address, because there is something called an address search right here, address search. And so you ask the person, hey, do you happen to know where it's located? And they're like, well, I think it's on the 200 block. So I'm gonna type in 200 to 299, and it's on Oak something. Well, your street name has a default for contains. So if I type the word Oak, I mean, there's other options, begins with or ends with. But if I type in the word Oak, everything that is, Smiling Oak, Oakwood, Oakleaf, all of those streets are there. So, you do the range and you do the contains Oak, and you do a search of, let's say, active listings. You might, once you do the search, you might be able to look at the list tab and realize, are any of these blue houses? So let's see if this, yeah, so nothing here has the name of Oak, but you get some results and you say, okay, are any of these blue houses? Oh, is this the house you're talking about? Let me say, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right. Then, you know, you're doing the detective work by using the address. Now, the other thing that I use the address search for is, for example, where I used to live, 55 Sea Park and Satellite Beach. Let's say you have a client who bought a property there like 10 years ago, like our example with the CMA, and they want to see, well, what can they list this for? Well, if you do a range of 55 to 55 and do Sea Park, you can go down to your status of, say, closed, and the last 6 months, we'll put in a date range, and you could see all the units. Because we're doing 55 to 55, this could be unit 101, unit 201, unit 601. So there's a bunch of units there. You might find 4 or 5 that have closed in the last 6 months and get a better idea. Okay, this is what I can price the property at. So again, when we're doing the address searching, we can do a range. And this range could work too if, like, say, the condo complex, there's 3 different buildings and it's 55, 57, and 59. So you want to get all 3 buildings. Or if it's just 1 building and you want to see all the units that have closed in the last 6 months or in the last year, put in your house number, put in your street name. And if, you know, there's some duplicates, you could always do things like cities or states. But the key thing here is just do whatever status you want active to see, hey, you know, your client saw this house, they don't quite remember where it's located, or you have a client who wants to list the property in this complex and they want to see, okay, everything else that's been listed here, what are those prices? So we have an idea to list it at. Okay, so that was some address searching. And you do have an option also for multiple addresses. So if I type in multi, give it a second to load, there is multiple addresses. And the purpose of this is basically the same thing like the MLS number. Your client found some properties off another site like Zillow or Redfin, and they give you those addresses. You just plug in those addresses and then anything else and click next. And this is just like the MLS number search for driving directions. If you have addresses instead of MLS numbers, fill out those 3 or 4. And then what you can do is get the driving directions. Chrissy asked, the classes on YouTube from yesterday to today. Yesterday's class is on. This is being recorded. This will be uploaded probably later today or tomorrow. But a playlist was made. So you'll see like FlexMLS training. So everything that I taught will be there. You click on it and you will see all the videos that I'm doing. Okay. So the next one we're going to focus on is the red push pin. Now I showed you yesterday, and again, if you want to see all the things you can do in the quick launch bar, look at the video from yesterday called the Super Boot Camp at 1 hour and 16 minutes. For the next 45 minutes after that or so, I do quick launch. But one thing that we did was a radius, 1 mile from 205 Hacienda Drive. And so I'm just going to do this really quickly. So we're going to do a mile radius around this property. And whenever I do a radius search, 205, not 2015. I think I'm going to have to get some coffee during the break between the next class. Okay, 1 mile from 205 Hacienda Drive. If I go to the map tab, I always check it to make sure, okay, did this find it correctly? And it's a yep, so it is a 1 mile radius around that address. But what if I need to go less than a mile? I can't type in 0.25 miles up here. So what I do is whenever you're in a search, there is an option for the red push pin. This red push pin, and I'm just going to start a new quick search so this is clean. This red push pin will allow you to go less than 1 mile. So maybe if you're in like a really, really posh area and you need to, 1 mile radius is just too far. So if I use this red push pin right here, and then I'm going to type in the address. So we're going to type in 205 Hacienda Drive. I'm actually going to pull up this at the top. I can't remember what the, okay, that was Merritt Island. Okay, Merritt Island 32952. So we'll do Merritt Island, Florida 32952. I'm going to locate this. Okay, Wilbur asked, where do you get the red pushpin to come up again? Whenever you're in a quick search, you'll see it whenever you're looking at the map, either here or if I switch to the map tab. The red pushpin is in the lower right corner of a quick search. So I'm going to click on locate. It'll zoom into this. Now, this, if I click on use this location, this may not be an actual listing. So when you're doing location radiuses around locations, it doesn't have to have been in the system. It can just, as long as Google can find the address, you can zoom into that location and do a radius around it. So that's a really cool thing. So I click on use this location, and I'm going to do a radius search, and we'll do 0.25 miles or 0.5 or 0.1, whatever you want to do. I'm going to create a radius, and now I have just a 1/4 mile radius around that. So let's say that again, this is a really posh area. If I'm doing a 1 mile radius, I might be getting some parts of Merritt Island that just do not compare to these properties. So let's go over that again. I showed you yesterday, we can do a 1 mile radius around a property. Very, very simple. You click on it, we do it. But you may need to go less than 1 mile. The quick launch doesn't let you do less than 1 mile, but the red push pin on the map does. So to pull up the red push pin, I'm going to click on quick search. Let it load. I'm going to go down to the lower right corner, look for the red push pin, and read the hover text. I mentioned this so many times yesterday, but watch for the hover text, because you may find out that there's functionality in the system you had no idea was there because you just never read what's above the mouse. And so we'll do 205 Hacienda Drive, Merritt Island, 32952. Click on locate. It's going to zoom into that location. Again, doesn't have to be a property that's been listed. It's as long as Google can find the address, it'll zoom in. And then we're going to use this location and do the radius search right here. And I'm going to put in 2.5 or 0.25 or 0.33 or 0.5, maybe even just do 0.1. And we're going to click on create radius. So now that gives me a 1/10 of a mile radius around that. And I could always, switch to close, like has anything sold here, and say the last 6 months. So only one property is sold in the last 6 months. So that is the red push pin. Now, a few other things we could do. I spent a good amount of time doing the quick search in the class yesterday because that is something that you would do pretty often. I do want to point out some other functionality with a quick search that you may not have noticed. One cool thing is, well, let's do a radius, we'll say 2 miles from Melbourne High School, Melbourne FL. So if you want to see how we're doing this, watch the class from yesterday. I don't want to duplicate. I'm going to pull that up. So one thing you can do that's more advanced searching is you do a 2 mile radius around a location. And like I said before, always check the map to make sure it's zoomed in your correct location. Because if I just typed in Melbourne High School without saying Melbourne, Florida, it would probably go to Australia. So this is a 2 mile radius around Melbourne High School. What's our example here? We have a client who just got hired as the principal for Melbourne High School, and he wants to live within 2 miles of that property. So we do a 2 mile radius, and you can do your other search parameters. But you know that there's a couple subdivisions here that have crazy high HOA fees. And I'm just going to choose an arbitrary example. Let me look at the list. We'll say that it is Paramount Riverfront. So I know this is not the case, but you want to do a search that is a 2-mile radius around the Melbourne High School, but you don't want any properties in Paramount Riverfront. How do you do that? It's pretty simple. We're going to go to Edit Search, and we're going to look at our subdivisions, and I'm going to type in Paramount. Or, oh wait, no, you have this magnifying glass. Let me do it here. Your system is set up differently than what I'm used to. Let's do Paramount. FlexMLS customizes settings so differently that sometimes I get even confused, and I've been teaching this for 6 years. Okay, Paramount Riverfront, I'm going to add, but watch what happens. Read your hover text. Can't emphasize that enough. Watch what happens with my mouse. You see, click to edit, but when I hover over like, click to change, include, exclude. If I want to have everything that's in a 2-mile radius of the high school, but I want to avoid Paramount Riverfront because I know the HOA fees are really, really high and my client doesn't want that, what do I now have? I have the 35 results instead of the 39, and if we zoom out, we have our 2-mile radius, but we're avoiding that certain subdivision. The reason I teach this is I taught in California a lot, and they had a subdivision that had HOA fees of $28,000 a year. And so many people would ask, well, how do we avoid that? We want to draw shapes, but we want to avoid certain locations in those shapes. So that's how you do it. Or another thing you could do is if your client really does not want to have HOA fees, there is a thing called HOA homeowners, and I don't believe that's on your default template. I added that yesterday. But if you were to add the HOA homeowners, you can do the HOA none. And let's see if that drops the price down. Drops from 35 to 26. So not only do you want to avoid the location with the high HOA fees, your client ends up telling you, okay, well, all these other places we're looking, they got some HOA fees too that I don't want to pay, I don't want to be part of. So you update their search by doing the HOA of none, and now you have 26 results, and obviously you can do bedrooms, bathrooms, your other things that you want to do. Okay, so what I really want to focus on, and the most important part of the advanced searching I find is the most popular, comes down to the map searching. Now let me just double check my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. I normally teach a 2-hour-long class of how to search in FlexMLS that combines like the quick launch, quick search, and the advanced stuff, but we kind of changed it around with the boot camp. So I want to make sure there's nothing I really missed. Okay, good. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on these 3 shapes right here. And if you read your hover text, you're going to see draw a rectangle for searching, draw a circle for searching, and draw a polygon. So I'm going to zoom into Satellite Beach just because I like the area. And I'm going to click on the rectangle right here. So watch what happens. I click on the rectangle, I click, and I start to move my mouse. I just click once on the map, I move my mouse, and it gives me a shape. Now when I'm done with my shape, so I'm basically going to go down to Cassia Boulevard, I'm going to click again. So watch, we have 2,792 results. This will now narrow it into everything in the shape. It brings us down to 74 results. So the rectangle is pretty simple to use. It makes a lot of sense if you have something that's, defined areas, but we may need to do a polygon later on, which we will do. So there's a rectangle. We see all the listings that are in this shape, and you'll notice if we hover over this X, it tells us remove this location. So if you want to remove that shape, it's very easy. Now the other shape we can do is, I'm going to zoom in right here, is the circle. Now the circle, basically think of it as it's a radius. And what's really great about this, and I had this question yesterday, what if you want to do a radius around an intersection? So maybe you have a client that works at a certain intersection and wants to live within a certain distance of that. Well, why don't we choose the intersection right here of DeSoto Parkway and is that Kale or Kate? Let's imagine that there's a elementary school here. And I know there's an elementary school somewhere around here, but we'll choose this right here as our center point. So when I click on the circle and I click on that intersection, that center point, I go out, watch the numbers. The radius starts to go out and actually tell you how far. So maybe the husband likes the northern part of Satellite Beach and South Patrick, whatever. But the wife wants to live within 1 mile of the elementary school or whatever that her work location is, so she can walk when it's not August. So now we jump up to 95 results because it's showing us everything in this shape and everything in this shape. Now, hover text, I keep talking about this because you would have no idea that this within button will let you do other things. I hover over it, says, all shape locations are included. Click to intersect. Well, what does that mean? I click on to intersect, and remember Venn diagrams? I'm sure we learned those in high school. If there's an overlap, it shows us all the properties in between their two searches. And if I hover over intersection again, it says all shape locations must be matched. Click to exclude. Oh, not within. So now it's going to show me all the properties, and there's more than 1,000, so it's not going to show up. It's going to show me all those properties that are not located in these two shapes. So the not within you can use with the freeform polygon. So what I mean by that is we'll do the freeform polygon next. But if you don't have a search parameter that matches what you're looking for, you can draw a shape and then avoid it. So what I mean by that, like there's subdivisions, there's areas. But if you happen to know in a certain part of Palm Bay, there's no real search parameter to narrow it down, but you have to know in a certain 6-block radius, there was a developer that the quality of the houses aren't very good. Well, you can't type in a search parameter like this says only good quality houses, but you have to know the boundaries of that location. So you draw a shape to include that development, and then you just click to exclude it so it doesn't show up in your search results. But another thing you can do, and I'm going to get rid of my two shapes, is we'll actually just view the map, is we're going to zoom in. And I'm going to use my freeform polygon right here. And when I click on this, to use the freeform polygon, basically every time you click, it gives you a point. And so this is very basic because it's just going to be east of A1A. So what happens is you need to stop moving your mouse to finish the shape. People will call up Flex support saying, well, why is it following me? Stop moving your mouse and double click. And I need to turn the light back on. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I've drawn a shape that's east of A1A and then south of Canova Park. I was just there yesterday. It was beautiful. So when you draw shapes, you can do them just one time if you would like. But when it comes to advanced searching, I want you to think of this kind of like thematically. So I've drawn this shape. If I feel like this is a shape I'm going to use in the future, I'm actually going to, I'm going to save it. But I want to think of it thematically. So you have this umbrella term, and the umbrella term is waterfront properties. But the individual shapes, I could have 10 or 15 individual shapes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this shape south of Canova Beach. And then I could have another one called North Indialantic. And I could have another one called pricey houses in Melbourne Beach. You know, whatever, but it's something that I can use in the future. So I want you to, again, think thematically. So what are the themes? Waterfront properties would be like the umbrella term. Golf course communities. I did a lot of training in North Carolina. And so they would have golf course communities that have 1st through 5th hole, 6th through 10th hole, 11th through 15th, and then 16th through 18th. And so they would have shapes for those individual holes for the houses that were on them. And so if they had a really wealthy client, they're like, we want to live in the 16th hole or higher. And so they would have a shape looking at like 5 different golf courses. Some of those towns, there's golf courses everywhere. And so they have a search that just looked the 16th through the 18th hole, and that was their map shape. Another thing could be gated communities. You have your umbrella term called gated communities, and then you have the names, the individual shapes are the name of the gated communities. So if I want to save this shape so I can use it in the future, it's very simple. I'm just going to click on this right here, the polygon. It'll give me this pop-up that gives me the option to edit it. I'll click inside the box, and I'm going to call this one South of Canova Beach. Now I'm using arbitrary names or arbitrary shapes just to show you how this works. I'm going to pick a color, let's say yellow, and I'm going to save it to a map overlay. So when I save it to a map overlay, I got to remember, the map overlay is the umbrella term, the big term, where the shape is the name South of Canova Beach. So I'm going to save the map overlay, and I'm going to do a new overlay called Waterfront Properties. And I'm going to save this. So I've now saved this shape, and if I'm going to get rid of the shape by clicking on the X, but this shape will always be available. So if I do a search in the future and I want to use it, I just click inside this box that says MLS number, address, or map overlay. And now I see there's a bunch of stuff that I don't see it right here. So I'm just going to type in waterfront. There we go, waterfront property, South of Canova Beach. And there we go. Now I can pull up properties. So you can use these shapes for stats reports. You can use them for hot sheets, for searches for your clients, for the market stats dashboard, all kinds of different things. I will cover in the stats class on Thursday. I'll probably come back to this. So, okay, let's draw one more shape. Now this time, we're going to do over here. When I get done, I'm going to stop moving my mouse. So I'm just going to call this Westview and Rio. And I'm going to add that to that waterfront. And actually, it might be a little like their canal stuff, but maybe that still would you consider that waterfront. So we do find a shape there, but I want to save this shape now too. So I'm going to click on this polygon, and we're going to edit it. And I'll just call it Rio. I can't remember, was it water something was the start. So I'll call this Rio. And I'm going to give this a different color, and we're going to save to a map overlay. And I don't want a new overlay because the overlay is the umbrella term. So I'm going to go add to existing overlay. And there's a bunch of stuff that's already provided for you. I have my waterfront properties. I'm going to click on save. So now I have 2 shapes that I can use at any point. So I'm going to click on waterfront. And again, stats reports, custom hot sheets, save searches, all kinds of different things. I'm going to pull up both of these. And so, I got one that's the riverside, and then one that's the ocean. And you could get as granular as you would like, but that's how that works. And I just want to point out a couple things. We only have a few more minutes. Normally, like I said before, I would do the quick launch and the quick search in an advanced searching class, but we already covered those in the super boot camp. So that is going to start at like the hour and 16 minutes. So I think if you go for like the next hour or so, that would be a lot of the quick launch and the quick search. There is this eye called Nosy Neighbor. So if I zoom in to a location, zoom in close enough that I actually see the parcels. Like these are some houses. This Nosy Neighbor. Now I don't see any active listings here. Or, well, I don't have the shapes. But if I were to click on this with my eye, I'm going to pop up that actually lets me go into RPR. But I'll see if it's ever been listed. This hasn't been listed, so why don't we try this one? Okay, this one has been listed. It's closed 6 years ago. I can pull up the IMAP tax info, I could pull up RPR. So let's pull up IMAP. Give that a second to load. Let's try another property. So, if you have someone come into that open house and they're like, well, they're kind of curious, what about all the houses around here? What were they selling for? Well, you got your laptop on the kitchen counter. You could just start clicking on stuff and see, okay, well, let's see. The neighbor's house, did that sell? And looks like a lot of these properties, they may predate the MLS because of, a lot of this was built in the 60s, 70s. People may have held on to those properties, but this one has been closed and canceled a bunch. And so that's because it's been a rental. But this nosy neighbor, this allows you to just click on any parcel once you've zoomed way in, and it'll give you information. If I pull up the IMAX tax info, there we go. And it might even be easier to do this once and go into IMAP, because IMAP has the visual representation that will do this. Chrissy asks, do I teach an IMAP comp class? I am not a user of IMAP. It's just one of many tax providers. So there is their own thing. So I train FlexMLS, and I will probably be training RPR next year once I become certified. Those are the two products that I know the best. Among I know how to use everything, but I would not be comfortable teaching it. So I assume that the board themselves will provide some sort of training. So I would talk to Kathy, the education director, and see if there's some kind of training that IMAP provides. But you'll see here with IMAP, you see all these different things, great visual representation of the nearby properties, what things have been sold. You could click on this, and then there we go. We have a pop-up for that. Dorleen asks where we found the recorded videos. If you scroll up, Megan provided a link to the YouTube playlist that you will see all the recorded videos. Okay, I just want to point out one more thing before we go. You do have the option to go to the overlays, and whenever you're in a search, you will see counties, county locations, schools, flood zones. These are map shapes that usually get updated every 6 months or every year. And so let me zoom out. So when you're listing something and you're not quite sure where it's supposed to go, or you're not sure about the boundaries of things, what's great about this is these overlays are updated. So if we do things like high schools, there we go. That shows me, okay, this is Satellite Beach High School. That's Palm Bay Magnet. Awesome. Or another overlay could be flood zones or wetlands. So these are built in. They're updated usually every 6 months or every year. It's something that it's GIS. And yeah, you just get here's flood zones. And so flood zones, you might only want to do one at a time so you're able to read it. But yeah, it's a really cool thing. Those map overlays, just whenever in a search, make sure you're on the map screen here or in the map tab. Go to overlays, and you can click on them to get the checkbox. So then it will overlay on the map and provide you information. Can this overlay be printed? Not physically from here. You could do a print screen. So if I did print screen and then opened up Paint, I could pull Paint and then just do a Control V to paste it. Do Control V to paste it, and then just kind of cut and paste. Otherwise, usually boards will have under your MLS intranet. Let's see if it's provided. There might be sometimes up here they'll have the PDFs of the information, of the maps. I don't see anything here. I would talk to Rob Rollinson. He's the MLS director. He may have something. I don't work here, so I don't know. When I was working as an MLS director in Arizona, we had PDFs of all the different overlays that we had. So it's possible that they have it. I just don't know. Okay, so that concludes the CMA Advanced Searching. We're going to do subscriptions and portals at 3 o'clock. So I hope everyone shows up for that. This is being recorded, but my email address is mlsroadschool@gmail.com. If you have any questions, please send me a message. Am I living in Florida now? No, I am living in my Mazda CX-5. I have an 8-inch foam mattress in the back. I'm driving the country and training as many Flex customers as I can, and then just enjoying enjoying the road. So with the coronavirus thing, I had to get, fancy with, normally I would fly somewhere and then work locations. But because of coronavirus, it's hard to get a lot of business because, again, I'm not doing face-to-face training. So I'm just going to drive the country. I'll head up the coast. And by the end of the year, I'll probably be back in Arizona and then go somewhere else. So again, any questions, mlsroadschool@gmail.com. Otherwise, I hope to see you at 3 o'clock. Have a great day.